Now, joining us to bring us more on this specific court case is Mbalenhle Mthethwa, who was monitoring proceedings in court. Good afternoon, Mbalenhle. Most certainly, one would assume perhaps some of the community members, given that outcome of a bail, some might be aggrieved, some might feel that she, to a certain extent, when it comes to the killings, would be innocent in as much as she did not possess a license to operate. But just share with us what exactly happened in court today.
Well, we do know that she has been released on 1,500 Rand bail, and the case has actually been postponed to later this month, between the 20th and the 27th of this month, where she will then be returning to court. However, you will remember that she was arrested last week after it was discovered that the license that she was using was actually fraudulent. And you remember that the police, before arresting her, taking her into custody, explained that it looked legitimate. It looked legitimate, and it took them a period of 3 days to verify its legitimacy. And when the results came back after the verification process, it was discovered that it was a fraudulent license. And obviously, this has created some unhappiness with community members who say that she is not responsible for the actual killing. However, the police are using her as a scapegoat for the actual killings, saying that, you know, the people who should have been arrested are those who are behind the shootings and not necessarily Noxolo for running this establishment. And they're saying that she's been running this establishment for a period of 17 years, and she's never had an incident such as this. And they are saying that police should do more to arrest those who are behind the shootings and should leave her alone. That is the word from the community members.
Okay,
Absolutely.
Those that attended the case and those who have lost loved ones, because some would assume that to a certain extent, if you're going to have people congregate at your establishment illegally, it does pose a threat, because if you possess a license, you would know the do's and don'ts, among them perhaps to have some sort of a security system that's running at the door, because it's late in the night, so it should be a very secure establishment, but that would be all that is within the license and one would know. But if you don't possess a legal license, perhaps you wouldn't know the do's and don'ts. So those that have lost loved ones, what is their view, if perhaps you have had the opportunity to speak to them?
Well, what we have is the word from the police, and you'll remember that the acting Gauteng Provincial Commissioner at the time explained that had this establishment not been running illegally, the 9 lives would have been saved, because no one would have been at an illegally operating facility or liquor facility, or even trying to enter and try to shoot at the patrons who were there. And as you've correctly stated, you know, those who would then possess a license would be able to comply to the regulations that come with the license. And in this instance, because this particular license was obtained fraudulently, it means that, you know, these regulations were not followed. But the person who we spoke to is someone who has named himself as Mduduzi Ntini, and he says he is the chairperson of the South African Liquor Traders Association in the West Rand, and he is the one who has really sounded the alarm bell, saying that this is unfair on the owner of the tavern, saying that, you know, she is the one who is now being used as a scapegoat, and saying that the focus is now moving away from the actual shooting and the perpetrators of the particular crime. And now all of a sudden the focus is solely on her, and this is just and this is, to them, according to them, an indication of the police's failure to do proper investigations and to ensure that they bring the perpetrators to book.
Most certainly a very interesting perspective from that specific body. But beyond this, just give us a recap of where we are in terms of the suspects. I mean, 11 people were apprehended, but we know that 5 were charged. And this was all specifically for possession of firearms and ammunition, not necessarily able on the part of the police to link this to the shooting per se.
Well, you know, when people are arrested, I mean, they were arrested for possession of those firearms, and some of those firearms do include rifles as well as pistols. And a ballistic test would need to be conducted by police officers in order to determine if it has been involved in, it has been used rather in other crimes, and if it was indeed used at the shooting and at the scene of the crime that we saw happening in the mass shooting that took place at Noxolo's Tavern. So I think once the ballistic tests have been compiled and concluded by investigators, we should then be able to determine if these 11 suspects have indeed been linked to the particular incident that took place. However, at this point, there are suggestions from community members who were giving their first-hand account as to what happened on that day. They do talk of people who were seemingly illegal minors who came in and started shooting indiscriminately at patrons there, and we saw the loss of life. That's a very sad incident. Family members who were devastated, asking for assistance from the government when the acting premier, Jacob Mamabolo, visited the community, where they asked for assistance in the form of repatriating some of the remains of their loved ones to the Eastern Cape, to Limpopo, as well as Lesotho.
Mbalenhle, thank you very much, as always, for that reportage. That's SABC News reporter Mbalenhle Mthethwa bringing us the very latest following the ruling to grant bail to the tavern owner there, where 9 people lost their lives.